Hey everybody, I'm Ebony. This is Ebony's Creativity. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Today's video is finally part 3, which is going to be like the finishing touches for this kitchen island makeover. I am so glad this project has come to an end. I really just wanted my island to be much more beautiful and much more functional than it was before. And I think I've achieved both of those goals, so I'm happy with how this turned out. You let me know what you think about how it turned out in the comment section below. Parts 1 and 2 will be in the description box, so if you haven't watched parts 1 and 2 yet, click out of here, but don't forget to come back. Go watch part 1, part 2, and then come back so you'll be able to kind of follow along with all the changes that have been made and all the blunders that I encounter along the way. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have not yet, please subscribe to my channel. Let's hop right on into part 3, finishing touches for this kitchen island makeover. Alright, so doing the recap, here's what we started out with. It was not cute, but it provided me a lot of storage, which I ultimately ended up losing, but I was okay with that because I wanted something that I would be happier to look at. I changed my design plan about halfway through the project, but I forgot to change my drawing, and so I ended up with the kitchen island that was 16 inches too short. So I had to look for inspo on how to fill in the space because I didn't want to spend any more money on a new top, and I found these pictures with the inset butcher block, so I decided to do that. But first, I got back to working on completing my build out. I wanted to also add an area where I can pull up to the countertop with stools. So that's what I'm building here, and that's how that turned out. It looks really good. I had this remainder from a tabletop that I had repurchased, so I decided to use this to make my DIY butcher block. So I cut it up into pieces. I did not know this was pine, which is not ideal for butcher blocks, but I went ahead and made it anyway because I didn't want to spend money, and this is what I had on hand. So as you can see, I went through the whole process of turning that piece of table into small planks and clamping, gluing, cutting. I did everything for a DIY butcher block. So I may make that into a separate video in case you're just interested in that portion, even though you should not use pine. I ended up having to make an additional trip to Home Depot to purchase more boards. So what I had from my first trip has already been painted, but these need to be primed and painted. And since I'm inside, I did not really want to spray. So I had to end up painting the additional boards that I had purchased by hand. I had the remainders from the table that I cut in the beginning, so I had to end up just cutting another piece of it. I had measured how big I wanted my butcher block portion to be, and then I just filled in the remaining space with an additional piece of the initial tabletop that I had, but I just glued it together and clamped it and tried to just adjoin it the best that I could, and then I filled the crack with wood filler. I primed that, and then I did a dry fitting of my butcher block just to make sure it was fitting properly. And then after I was assured that everything was looking good, I removed the butcher block and I painted everything black. I really don't like spraying inside. That's why you saw me initially rolling and painting with a brush, but I just decided I need to finish at some point, so I just went ahead and started spraying. Here's how this looks once the paint was all dried up, so I think it looked really good, and I'm starting to get really excited at this point. My initial cuts left me with a raw edge, and I wanted to make sure that I covered that up, but I didn't feel like doing a bunch of filling and sanding, so I just decided to buy a piece of trim and cover it completely and make it look seamless down that back side. But I could not find anything that wasn't already primed, and so this is the only trim piece that was the appropriate size that I needed width-wise that was in the store, but it was pre-primed, so I just decided to buy it and just sand off the primer. So that's what I'm doing now. So that didn't take much time at all, and here is the sanded trim piece. I'm not too sure what happened to the footage, but I did do 4 coats of poly on top and 2 coats on the base, and I did go ahead and spray that inside because it's water-based, so it's not too harsh, and that's just how to get the best finish with that polyacrylic. So I've set my butcher block up here. I didn't go ahead and nail it down because I have never used this stain before, and I want to make sure I don't have to end up sanding this stain off. So here's the stain. It's the furniture Clinic stain. I use this because it has no fumes. It's water-based. So that's about as close as I could get to food safe without spending a ton of money on food safe stains. And it was really fast drying, which I liked, and it had a really nice color payoff. So it really hit all my markers. I've never used this before, but I will definitely be a return customer for the Furniture Clinic stain. Not saying that I'm completely going to abandon my Minwax, but when you have pups or kids, or even yourself, you don't really want to be breathing those harsh fumes that traditional stains have in your house. And so this is just really nice to be able to work with. I do plan to seal it with oil though, so that will be the ultimate test on how I like this stain. Here are some dowels that I picked up, and I'm just going to go ahead and stain these. These are going to serve as my trim pieces to finish out the area around the butcher block. So you'll see me install these shortly, but I just wanted to go ahead and stain them. I had this bowl here already. I use it to store like potatoes, onions, that kind of stuff that sits out on the countertop. But I wanted to see how this stain would react over something that was previously stained, and you'll see why in a second. I picked up this rolling pin at a thrift store many years ago, and it's just kind of stayed around here. I ain't doing any baking anytime soon, but I do think that these are nice when used as decor, so I'm going to go ahead and stain this too. And here's my little staining hack. If your washing machine eats socks like mine does, you can use the spare socks to stain. And so if you want to keep it wet to stain later or another day, you can just wrap it up in the glove like so. I also stained that trim piece that I sanded down while I was staining all the other stuff. And so now I'm just brad nailing it on. I'm also using brad nails to attach the top to the base of the island because there's nothing holding it on right now. It's just kind of sitting up there. It's heavy enough to stay, but I still wanted to attach it in a few places just so it would not slide if somebody bumped it. I'm really happy with how that stain turned out on the butcher block. It matches my cabinets well, which is exactly what I was going for. So now that I'm happy with how it looks, I'm going to make sure that it's level first, and then I'm going to go ahead and nail that into place. I used my miter shears to cut 45-degree angles on the ends of those two dowels that you saw me stain. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my brad nailer to attach those to the butcher block. And the purpose of these is just to kind of give a finished look and to make sure that there's no little crack around the butcher block that food can fall into. So here's how that turned out. I had the hardest time figuring out which stools to buy, but here's some of the choices that I was considering. So you let me know which ones you think look best in the comment section. Here are the stools that I picked. However, the picture online looks a lot different than the color that they are in person. These are like a gray, some kind of like weathered gray, and this was charcoal online, like I'm thinking charcoal, like close to black. I thought I would be able to pull it off as black. And this looks like some darker wood online. So I'm going to stain it because I don't feel like returning it. And I'm ready for this project to be done. Y'all, this project, let me just stain that. I hope I don't destroy them. I'm going to just try to stain them. This is the reason why I stained that bowl, because I wanted to see how well that Furniture Clinic stain would perform over something that had been previously stained and sealed, because I kind of figured that what I was going to get with these stools was not going to be what I wanted. So I'm glad I did that little experiment because that gave me a lot of confidence in the stain, and I figured that it would be able to achieve what I needed. I ended up doing 3 coats of stain in order to achieve the darker color that I was going for. And I was really happy that this stain has such a fast drying time because I was able to apply my second coat and my third coat pretty quickly after the first one. Here I'm kind of showing you the before and after. Here's after 1 coat and here's before. So you can see a really stark difference. While that was drying, I moved on to sealing my butcher block. So to do that, I'm using tung oil because this is what oil I have on hand. On hindsight, I applied way too much oil, but that's okay. I'll just wipe in what I have, leave it overnight to absorb into the wood, and then come back in the morning and wipe off any excess. My final verdict on the stain is that it is absolutely amazing, and it does allow you to top coat it with oil. Here is the color that I was able to achieve with 3 coats of that stain, and I'm much happier with this color than I was with that weathered gray. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring those inside and put them into place. There was a little bit of a crack between the trim and the top of the island, so I filled that with caulk, and I'll come back and paint that later off camera. So here's how we're ending this day of working on this island. Now it is finally time for decorating, which is my favorite part, the part that I could not wait to get to. And I'm going to be reusing these 2 vases that I got from Facebook Marketplace. I hauled these in a previous video, which I will also link below. I've got some sort of weird obsession with odd shaped, big, huge cutting boards. So I like to use them like when I host parties and stuff. So I saw this one and had to have it. I restocked my bowl with my food that was in it previously. I've got 2 thrifted rolling pins. I thrifted this book stand, and then I decided to use it to hold a book that belonged to my grandparents. And without further ado, here is my final kitchen island. I'm going to be putting some placemats on the side where the stools are. I couldn't find any that I liked, and I didn't just want to purchase something, so I don't have them up here now, but right where each of the stools are, I will be adding some placemats so that my painted surface will not get messed up once I put a hot plate of food on it. So yeah, here is the final finished look of how my island turned out. It is much more functional. Now I have an additional surface to sit and eat. I think it looks beautiful. It's much more modern and more of my style than the previous look was. If you're curious about how much this cost in total, I would say including the stools and the wood and the purchase of the table for the top, all said, I probably spent somewhere around $500. I will be upholstering these stools to a black fabric when I find one that I really love. But all in all, here's how this looked. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you have the time, please select another one of my videos to watch from the choices on your screen or in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching.